This happened about a week ago. I was juggling multiple projects in my small, vintage apartment downtown. I set up my workstation in the living room. It was supposed to be a peaceful night, just me and my work. At first, everything was normal quiet, just the soft hum of my computer. But then, around 10 p.m., the overhead lights began to flicker. I thought maybe it was an old wiring issue and shrugged it off. I kept working, but I felt a strange chill run through me. As I stayed focused, I began to hear faint thumps from below. At first, I told myself it was nothing, it was just the old plumbing. I tried to ignore it, but the sounds kept coming. They got under my skin. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. I should have known that wasn't true. The next evening, something changed. I caught glimpses of movement through my window blinds. I wasn't sure if it was a figure or just my imagination. I leaned closer to the window, heart pounding, but the street was empty. I felt uneasy, like I was being watched. I returned to my work, my hands shaking a little as I gripped the keyboard. By the third night, I started receiving out emails. They were anonymous and always signed with a name I didn't recognize. Each one described unsettling events from my childhood, things I thought I had buried long ago. A cold shiver ran down my spine. How did this stranger know these details? Was someone targeting me? I wanted to stop reading, but I was drawn in, like a moth to a flame. I fought with myself over whether I should call someone or keep quiet. I think I was scared to draw attention to what I thought might just be my imagination. Maybe I was just overworked. I hated that. But I couldn't get the questions out of my head. By the fifth night, the thumping downstairs had grown louder. I noticed the lights flickered more frequently. I jumped at every noise. My heart raced. Then I saw a shadow move outside my window. I hesitated, afraid of what I might find. I could barely breathe as I pulled the blinds apart just enough to peek outside. No one was there. Then, just when I thought I could regain my composure, I heard a whisper. My breath caught in my throat. It seemed to come from right behind me. I turned around, terrified. There was nothing there, but the air felt thick and heavy. I heard it again. Why don't you remember? I spun back to my computer, and my screen flashed. An email had just arrived. I clicked it open, and my heart dropped. It was blank except for one line. It's your turn to remember. I dropped the mouse, staring at the empty screen, paralyzed by fear. Who was doing this? I had to know. But then, the chilling thought hit me, what if I didn't want to remember? What happened next? I'm still not sure I'm ready to tell you. I spent the next day trying to distract myself. I worked from my tiny kitchen table instead of the living room, hoping that would help me forget about the emails, the whispers, and the thumping sounds. But as evening approached, an unease settled back into my bones. Once the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt the familiar chill wrap around me. I tried to concentrate on my work, but my mind often drifted back to that last email. It's your turn to remember. What did that even mean? I felt a mix of defiance and dread, but ultimately, I refused to let this stranger control me. At around 10 p.m., I decided to take a walk. I grabbed my jacket and headed outside, hoping the fresh air would clear my thoughts. As I walked through the quiet streets, I felt a little better. The night was calm, and the moon cast a soothing light. But when I returned home, my heart sank. The moment I stepped inside, the feeling of being watched returned, almost suffocating me. I locked the door behind me, not that it helped much against the growing sense of dread. I needed to get some sleep, but the pounding in my head wouldn't let me settle. I headed to bed, but I lay there, tossing and turning for what felt like hours. That's when the thumping began again, louder than ever, echoing up from the floor below. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, just the old building settling. But then I heard something else, a crashing sound. Panic surged through me, and I felt compelled to check it out. With shaky hands, I grabbed my phone for a light and tiptoed down the hall. The dim light flickered in the darkness, enhancing the shadows that danced around the walls. Each step felt like a step closer to something that I desperately wished to avoid. When I reached the living room, the noises grew louder. I peered over the back of the couch. The place was empty, but the air felt heavy and oppressive. Then something caught my eye. My laptop was still open, and the screen glowed brightly. But it wasn't just a screen, it was displaying a new email. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back. But the curiosity tugged at me. I approached slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. I had to know what it said. As I drew closer, I noticed my hands were trembling, so I steadied myself against the table. I took a deep breath and clicked on the email. My heart raced as I read the subject line, "Do you remember now?" As I opened the message, the room felt alive. I could hear the thumping grow louder, not just from below, but from all around me. Then I saw a picture attached. That's when I saw it. The image was of a little girl, her face obscured but familiar. My breath caught in my throat when I recognized that it was me. Confusion and fear overwhelmed me. But the worst part was the message beneath the photo, "You're closer than you think." Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging me into darkness. The only sounds were the thumping below and my own shaky breath. Someone or something was in my house, and now I had no choice but to confront the truth. I stood frozen in the dark, the weight of that picture hanging heavily in my thoughts. "You're closer than you think." What did that mean? I couldn't shake the feeling that it was a warning, or maybe an invitation. I had to know more, but every instinct told me to turn and flee. Then, just like before, the thumping came again, stronger this time, rattling through the floorboards below me. My heart raced, and I took a cautious step back toward the hallway. I needed to get out of here. I needed to escape this suffocating fear. But then another sound pierced through the tension, a soft, childlike giggle, echoing from somewhere beneath me. I paused, my breath hitching in my throat. There was something terribly wrong, and my curiosity warred with my instincts to run. I couldn't tell if the laugh was real or just a trick of my mind. Slowly, I moved back toward the living room, the glow of my phone light only illuminating the edges of the shadows. As I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing pulse, I noticed something on the coffee table that made my blood run cold. My old stuffed bear, once lost during a move years ago, was sitting there, its button eyes shining eerily. I remembered bringing it everywhere as a child, the one thing that kept me safe during the nightmares. Now, it felt like a grim reminder of what I was facing. I picked up the bear, unsure what to feel. It felt oddly warm, as if someone had held it recently. My phone vibrated in my hand, pulling my attention back to the screen. A new message had arrived. With a gut-wrenching sense of dread, I opened it. "Do you remember the games we played?" I felt the air shift, a chill creeping up my spine, tightening around me. The thumping below intensified, but now, it was almost rhythmic, like someone was counting down. I glanced toward the staircase, my body urging me to retreat, but my curiosity anchored me in place. The giggling returned, this time louder, more playful. It sounded so close. Was it coming from above? A sense of urgency surged through me. I didn't want to ignore it, but I was terrified of what I might find. I glanced again at the bear, then back at the staircase. I knew I had to face whatever was down there, whatever was tied to this. Was it truly a memory, or was it a trap? As I stepped toward the stairwell, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the living room. But the sudden brightness showed me something I hadn't seen before. The wall by the stairs was smeared with what looked like small handprints. They were faded, barely there, but unmistakable. I froze. My heartbeat echoed in my ears as I stared at the marks, realization washing over me. They weren't just handprints. They were small, just like the girl in that picture. I couldn't breathe. Someone had been here. Someone wanted me to remember. And now, a voice called from the dark staircase, softly, insistently whispering, "Come find me." I turned to flee, but something stopped me. The thumping returned, and before I could reach the door, I was plunged into darkness once again. I stumbled as the lights went out, my pulse racing with each frantic breath. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the echo of that infuriating giggle reverberating in my ears. I couldn't afford to panic. I had to keep my wits about me. Groping for the walls, I moved toward the staircase, each step pulling me deeper into uncertainty. The warmth of the stuffed bear was still in my grip. I didn't know why I held on to it. Maybe it was a reminder of safety, or perhaps a false sense of courage. I paused again when the whispers returned. They wrapped around me like a cold breeze. "Come find me." My legs felt heavy, but I forced myself to move down the stairs, one shaky step at a time. The air was thick, almost electric, as if something awaited me in the shadows below. "It's just your imagination," I muttered to myself, trying to rally some courage. But reassurance was hard to come by when fear twisted in my gut. As I reached the bottom, the sound of playful giggles echoed again, this time accompanied by a soft patter. My heart sank. I could almost see her, a child with wild hair and a mischievous grin, eyes full of secrets. But that was impossible. "Just the dark playing tricks," I whispered, trying to convince myself. Then I saw a flicker of light from the corner of my eye. My instincts screamed at me to run, but curiosity lured me toward it. As I walked, that feeling of being watched washed over me. I held the bear tightly, my lifeline. The flicker turned into a dim glow, and I followed it, my breath hitching as I entered a small playroom. The light came from an old lamp in the corner, illuminating a pile of toys scattered across the floor. But my gaze was drawn to the wall where drawings were taped, all created in crayon by a young hand. And there, in the midst of vibrant scribbles, I recognized her face, the girl from the picture. The same little girl with the bright smile and wild curls. Panic surged in me as I examined the drawings. Each one depicted scenes of play, us against a backdrop of hide-and-seek or tag. But the last drawing made my skin crawl. It simply showed a figure in the shadows, lurking behind a tree. No face, just darkness. It felt like a trap, or perhaps a warning, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was me in the shadows. That's when I noticed something else hanging near the sketches, a small wooden box. It was weathered, the kind with a latch that looked ready to rust away. My heart raced as I approached it, an overwhelming urge to see what lay inside. Just as I reached out to lift the lid, the room went cold. It felt as if the air itself had thickened, and the giggling erupted into a chorus of laughter, louder and more chaotic. I froze again, taking a step back, but before I could, the lamp flickered violently. Then everything went dark. I blinked, trying to adjust to the darkness. My breath came in sharp gasps, and I squeezed the stuffed bear tighter, almost hoping it could shield me. I slowly reached out, trying to find the wall to orient myself. My fingertips brushed against something cold and metallic. It was the lamp, still standing, but it felt wrong in the absence of light. As I hesitated, I heard it again, the giggle, now a low haunting whisper. "Come find me." A chill ran down my spine, and I turned toward the sound, gripping the bear as if it were a weapon. The air was heavy, pressing down on me, suffocating like a thick fog. I forced myself to take a step forward. I needed to get out of this room. I moved in the direction where I thought the door was, but the laughter grew louder, echoing off the walls and blocking my path. Each laugh felt like a sharp jab in my heart. There was no escaping it. Then the giggling broke off, replaced by a startling silence. I froze again, straining to hear anything over the pounding in my ears. Was she still here? My instinct told me to run, but my feet refused to move. Suddenly, the lamp flickered back to life. The room flooded with a warm, yellow glow, but the sight before me jolted my heart. The box I had seen earlier was now open, its lid flipped back, revealing something inside. I couldn't see what it was. My courage was waning again. A part of me wanted to leave, but I was rooted in place, feeling inexplicably drawn to it. As I edged closer, the whispers returned, now more distinct. "You have to see what's inside." I hesitated, battling my fear against the pull of curiosity. It felt like the very air was urging me forward, taunting me. I leaned over the box. Then I gasped. The contents were photographs, all of the same little girl. Only now, she was not alone. Other children were with her, but their faces were smeared, almost like someone had rubbed them away. It sent a wave of nausea over me. I fumbled through the images, heart racing with each turn. That S when I saw it one photograph showed the girl standing near our house, the same wild curls, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. But in the background, there was a figure. Tall and dark, lingering just out of focus, watching her. A chill ran through me. I recognized the silhouette something from my last visit here. Before I could process this revelation, the giggles rose again, cutting through my thoughts like shards of glass. I shot my head up, eyes searching for the source. The playroom felt suffocating, as if the walls were closing in. And then, the door creaked open. In that split second, time froze. I staggered back as a shadow poured into the room like liquid darkness, taking shape before my eyes. Someone or something was there, and my heart dropped as I realized I wasn't alone at all. I stared at the figure, my breath hitching in my throat. The shadow stood still at the doorway, backlit by the hallway light. I couldn't see its features, but I felt its gaze piercing through me, as if it could read the terror written all over my face. "Who's there?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it took a slow step forward. The air thickened with a mix of fear and an overwhelming urge to flee. I should have run, but my feet felt glued to the carpet. It was like some invisible force was holding me in place. "Come play with me," it said, but the voice was twisted, almost mocking. It reminded me of the girl from the photographs, the one with the unsettling smile. I glanced back at the box on the floor. The images scattered around me felt like evidence, but evidence of what? What happened to the children in those photos? My heart raced as I pieced together the fleeting memories of the whispers. "Find me." The laughter echoed in my mind, taunting me, reminding me of the presence hovering in the doorway. "Stay away from me," I cried out, finally breaking the spell. I stumbled backward, grabbing the lamp, ready to use it like a shield. The figure paused, then stepped back, as if my sudden defiance surprised it. The smile stretched wider, but not a trace of warmth flickered in its eyes. "You're just like the others," it cooed. "So scared. So easy to find." I felt bile rise in my throat. "What do you want?" I shouted, adrenaline propelling my words. "Just your company," it said, tilting its head like a curious child. "I want to play." In that moment, I remembered my phone, buried deep in my pocket. If I could just grab it, I could call for help. I slowly backed toward the small table beside the lamp, my eyes fixed on the figure. I reached into my pocket, keeping my other hand firm around the lamp. Suddenly, the figure lunged forward. My instincts kicked in, and I swung the lamp, catching it square in the chest. It stumbled back, and I took that moment to dart toward the door, heart pounding in my ears. I flung the door open and rushed into the hallway, but it felt different. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows shifting and moving like they were alive. I sprinted towards the stairs, panicking as the giggles followed me, echoing off the walls like a haunting melody. As I reached the staircase, I glanced back. The figure was there, looming, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. "You can't escape," it whispered, the words slithering through the air, freezing me in my tracks. Desperation surged through me as I took my first step down. That S when I noticed something glinting on the ground. A small, shiny object, just at the base of the stairs. I had to know what it was. The light from the hallway flickered, casting eerie shadows as I bent to check. That S when I found it a locket, half buried in the dust. I opened it, and the picture inside made my blood run cold. There was the little girl, smiling brightly, but behind her appeared the same tall figure, obscured yet ever present. It felt like a revelation, one that raised new questions. I looked up, breathing heavily, and gasped. The figure was closer now, its dark eyes locked on mine, a sinister smile stretching wider than before. There was no escape. And I suddenly realized I had stumbled into something much darker than I could have ever imagined. I stumbled back on instinct, the locket slipping from my fingers. It clattered to the floor, echoing sharply in the tense silence. The figure's smile broke into an unsettling grin, revealing teeth that seemed far too sharp. It advanced, its movements fluid and unnatural. I focused all my energy on finding a way out. No! I shouted, desperate. The air felt heavy, pressing down on me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were inching closer. I darted toward the nearest room, the one I had hoped would provide some safety, but felt a sweep of cold air wrap around me as I turned. I could hear a soft, mocking laughter echoing behind me. The figure paused for just a second, then suddenly rushed forward. I braced myself, fear clawing at my insides, and slammed the door shut. I turned the lock, trembling as I leaned against the wood. For a moment I held my breath, listening for any sounds. The shadows seemed to creep in through the cracks, overwhelming the little light that managed to seep into the room. I fumbled around, searching for something, a weapon, a way out, anything that could help me. A part of me wanted to check the window. That's where the light shone brightest, illuminating the corner where I had stashed the old baseball bat. I dashed toward the window, trying to ignore the gnawing feeling of being watched. As I reached for the bat, a sudden crash echoed from the door I had just locked. The door rattled violently, then abruptly went still. I froze, holding my breath, listening intently. Just quiet enough that I could almost convince myself it wasn't there. I grabbed the bat, gripping it tightly, my fingers tightening around the smooth wood. I approached the door cautiously. "What do you want?" I shouted again, my voice steadier this time. I was met with silence. A shiver ran down my spine. Maybe it moved on. Then I heard a whisper, soft, sweet, and sickeningly familiar, curling through the air. "Let me in." It was the same voice from before, the one that chilled me to the bone. Panic surged again, and I stumbled back, instinctively swinging the bat toward the door. It wasn't as if I could just stand there, could I? I had to know what was happening. I peered through the peephole, my heart racing with dread. The figure was gone. I sighed, feeling relieved, even though a gut feeling told me that was too easy. Then everything shifted as the lights flickered out entirely. Darkness swallowed the room, and fear took hold of me again. Fumbling around, I tried to find my way to the window. As I moved, I felt an icy breath along my neck, chilling me to my core. "Play with me," the voice softly soothed from the shadows. I spun around, bringing the bat up defensively as I searched for the source. My heart thumped violently against my rib cage as the laughter returned, echoing off the walls, twisting into frantic, haunting screams. I didn't see anything. Only darkness. I was trapped. I thought about my next move. Should I fight? Or was it smarter to hide? Then I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye, a glint of silver, moving like a glimmer in the void, just beyond my reach. That's when I realized, it wasn't just taunting me, it was playing. I was the game. Panic surged anew as I charged for the door when the grip of an unseen force caught me, pulling me back into the shadows where I could hear the whispers of the children, and a single chilling phrase echoed in my ears: "You're just like us now." I felt myself pulled deeper into the shadows, confusion mixing with terror. The whispers surrounded me, a chorus of ghostly voices blending together. Images tried to form in the darkness, silhouettes of children laughing, their eyes shimmering with a mix of joy and malice. I shook my head, attempting to clear my mind. I couldn't let it pull me down. With a frantic surge of strength, I fought against the unseen grasp holding me. I swung the bat wildly, desperate to hit something even if it was just air. To my surprise, the force released me, and I stumbled forward, disoriented. The laughter faded momentarily, and I could catch my breath. I turned to look back at the door, uncertain if it was safe to continue hiding or if I should make a break for it. Just then, the lights flickered back on, revealing the room in all its disheveled horror. The walls were adorned with faded drawings joyfully depicting children playing, except their eyes were hollow, and their smiles too wide. And that's when I saw it. The locket I had dropped earlier lay open on the floor, its chain twisted. Inside, a picture that made my stomach drop: a group of children, their faces smiling brightly. But one of them stood apart, a little girl with dark hair and an unsettling grin that mirrored the figure from before. She seemed so familiar, and I couldn't understand why. Glancing back at the door, I caught my breath, slowly inching toward the locket. I reached down to pick it up, fingers trembling. As soon as I touched it, a rush of cold air filled the room, and the shadow at the corner of my eye deepened. I looked up to see a pair of glowing eyes watching me from the darkness. "Join us," the hushed voice whispered again, its tone unbearably sweet. The air thickened, pulling at me like it was alive, wrapping around my limbs as I tried to back away. "Get away from me!" I shouted, swinging the bat at the shadows. The room seemed to pulse with the impact, and in that moment, the eyes faded slightly, but the feeling of being surrounded remained. I needed to escape. The door still stood locked, but suddenly, I spotted the window. It was a small chance, but it felt like my only option. I rushed toward it, the bat held high, ready to send that figure crashing back into the void. The locket clattered to the floor again, forgotten. As I reached the window, I yanked it open with all my might. The chill of the night air rushed in, filling my lungs with hope. I peered outside, searching for any sign of help. The street below was empty, shadows curling around abandoned houses. I hesitated, glancing back over my shoulder. The laughter returned, louder now, more sinister. It felt like they were right behind me. I swung the bat into the darkness but connected with nothing. My heart raced. "I'm not one of you," I protested, though something deep inside me wondered if I was already too late. Then, I caught sight of the locket again, glimmering in the faint light. That girl's eyes burned into my heart like a brand. I had to make a choice. Either climb through the window into that cold abyss or face whatever hunted me inside this room. I hesitated. But before I could choose, the icy breath returned, closer now than ever. I bolted for the window, adrenaline surging through my veins. Suddenly, a hand gripped my shoulder from behind, freezing me in place. The voice hissed, "You're not leaving." I gasped, glancing over my shoulder to meet the sharp, predatory smile of the figure just inches away from me. My heart dropped. It was time to find out who I had really become. I didn't think. Instincts took over as I swung the bat, desperate to break free from the hold that figure had on me. The cold grip instantly released, and I spun around to face my attacker. But the moment passed, and they were gone. Just a lingering chill remained where their presence had been. My breath came in frantic bursts, and the shadows seemed alive again, watching, waiting. I needed to get out. The window was still open behind me, so I turned back, ready to dive into the night. But the moment I looked toward the street, I heard it in echoing laughter, sharper now, rising like a tide. It rolled through the room, leaving a layer of dread in its wake. Gritting my teeth, I focused on the open window. The thoughts of what I might find below were overshadowed by the urgency of escaping. I climbed onto the edge, ready to leap into the darkness when I heard a soft thud behind me. I turned, heart pounding as I saw what had caused it. The locket lay on the floor, now glowing faintly. The sudden illumination pulled me in, and I knelt down, entranced. The tiny picture of that girl still stared up at me, but now her eyes shimmered and shifted, as though alive. I could almost hear her call me. "Help us," she whispered, a soft melody that intertwined with the laughter still circling around me. "No! It's a trick!" I yelled, shaking my head, trying to break free from the spell. But even as I said it, a part of me screamed that I had to listen. The laughter faded, replaced by a low, thrumming hum that seemed to echo within the walls. I pressed my palms against my ears, desperate to drown it out, when I saw shadows shifting again. This time they took form, weaving in and out of focus. A group of children emerged, darting like fireflies, their hollow eyes glistening with joy and hunger. Fear surged. I jumped down from the window ledge and stumbled back, my hands clutching the bat as my heart threatened to smash against my ribs. "Get away from me!" I shouted again, but it came out less confident. The first child, a boy with hair like spun gold, took a step toward me. I noticed the glint of something in his hand. It was a small toy, a plastic action figure, and next to him stood the girl, her unsettling grin widening. "Why won't you play?" she asked, her voice sweet as sugar but laced with something darker. I glanced toward the door, my only escape avenue. But as I looked back, I saw the boy now holding the locket, its glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Suddenly, all the laughter erupted again, and the children surged forward, surrounding me in a vortex of bright eyes and gleaming smiles. I had to act. I swung the bat again, this time connecting with one of the shadows, and something shifted. The laughter stuttered and faltered. For a moment, they scattered, fear dancing in their eyes. But like a wave, they closed in on me again. Then it happened. I caught sight of the door in the corner of my eye, standing slightly ajar. There it was, my escape. But the children were blocking my path, their faces shifting, each more familiar than the last. With my heart in my throat, I remembered the girl from the locket, and suddenly, everything clicked. The familiar weight settled deep within me. I was not just a victim, I was part of this nightmare. But I had to decide who I wanted to be. I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the reality of the moment. The laughter swirled around me, the children's faces flickering between joy and malice. I could feel it, the pulling sensation of the past wrapping itself around me like a shroud. For a fleeting second, fear froze me in place, but anger surged beneath it, fighting to break free. No more! I shouted, gripping the bat tightly, not ready to surrender to whatever this twisted game was. The children hesitated, their laughter dying down to quiet giggles. I felt the cold tendrils of their energy retreat slightly, as if my words had drawn a line in the sand. I had to remember this was my past too, buried deep beneath layers of self-protection and denial. It stared back at me from the eyes of those children, but I couldn't let them drag me back into that darkness. Not again. You think you can keep me here? I spat, lifting the bat high, allowing it to become a symbol of defiance. I will not play your game. As if fueled by my resolve, I charged toward the door, shoving the bat into the shadows. The figure lurked nearby, its form rippling like a dark cloud hanging over me, but I kept my eyes on the escape route. Closer. Just a few more feet. The children gasped, their expressions shifting from playful to terrified as I barreled past them. I felt the air change, the whispers growing frantic, but I pressed on. I am not one of you! I screamed. The moment I reached the door, I threw it open and sprinted into the dimly lit hallway. My heart hammered wildly, the echo of their giggles fading behind me. I raced down the stairs, the chill of warnings prickling at my skin, but I couldn't stop. Each step brought me closer to freedom. Outside, the cool night air hit me like a wave. I stumbled onto the street, feeling the weight of the building lift off my shoulders as I turned back for just a moment. The window glowed faintly, and shadows loomed inside, shifting and writhing, but I was free. I ran, feeling the need to distance myself from those memories that had surfaced, the truths I had long buried. My heart still raced, thrumming in my chest like a war drum. What haunted me? What spectral figures still lingered in that haunted space? A week later, I moved into a new apartment across town, carrying the remnants of that past, a battered cardboard box overflowing with chaos, old photographs, childhood toys, and a single locket that now lay still, glinting under the fluorescent lights. I thought about all the questions that lingered, about the children I never truly remembered, about the memories woven into the fabric of that darkness. Sometimes, in moments of solitude, I hear a faint giggle on the wind. It's quick, fleeting, a reminder that they're still there, somewhere in the shadows. I can't shake the feeling that they're watching, that those memories are a doorway open, uninvited yet familiar. And I wonder, if I go back, would I still be the one in control? Or would that same darkness wrap around me again? I guess some questions don't have answers. Yet I moved forward, hoping to reshape my life around those uncertainties. Maybe that's all I really could do,